Welcome, dear listener, to the Sleepy Mythologist, where myths become whispers and legends drift like clouds across the starry night. Tonight, we journey out into one of the most beautiful and powerful stories of creation, the cosmic dance of Shiva, the Hindu god of both destruction and renewal. This tale is not only ancient but deeply symbolic, a rhythm of birth, death, and rebirth that echoes in the stars above and the cells within us. So find a comfortable place, take a deep breath, and let this story gently carry you to the edges of time and space. And before we begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Let us know in the comments, whether you're in the mountains of Nepal, a city in Europe, a quiet village in India, or resting in bed on the other side of the world. Now, let us begin, long before the stars were born, before the earth had ever turned on its axis, and before even time itself began its steady march forward. There was only stillness. A stillness so vast, so deep, that even the idea of nothingness had not yet emerged. There was no sound, for there was no air to carry it. No light, for there were no suns to shine. No shadows, because nothing existed to cast them. It was a silence beyond silence, a sacred pause before the breath of existence. This was not emptiness in the way we might imagine it, not a void to be feared, but a fullness too great to be divided, a unity too complete to be described. In Hindu cosmology, this primordial state is not chaos, nor is it a blank slate. It is pure potential, the womb of all things, holding within it the seeds of every star, every thought, every soul that would ever exist. It is called Brahman, the formless absolute, beyond name, beyond form, beyond comprehension. There were no gods yet, no humans, no animals, no oceans or forests or windswept mountains. There was not even darkness, because darkness requires light to be its opposite. There was only undisturbed being, a timeless presence, watching itself in perfect peace. And yet, within this infinite stillness, something stirred. Not a movement in space, for space had not yet been born. It was more like a whisper within the soul of the universe itself, a longing, a rhythm waiting to be expressed, the quiet desire of the one to know itself through the many, the seed of motion inside stillness, of form inside formlessness, of dance inside the silent watcher. This was the first impulse, subtle, invisible, yet powerful, truthful beyond imagining. It was not violent, not sudden, but graceful, like the slow blooming of a lotus in waters untouched by wind. And from this invisible pulse, a presence began to emerge, a consciousness so ancient, so vast, it could not be contained in any one shape. This was not yet Shiva, the dancing god we know from stories and statues, but the idea of Shiva, the spirit of transformation, waiting to awaken. There was no need, no reason, no cause for this emergence. It was simply the nature of existence to become. Just as music flows from silence, just as dreams rise from sleep, so too did creation prepare itself to rise from the stillness. And in that moment, though there was no clock to measure it, the great cycle began. But not with a bang and not with a shout. No cosmic explosion, just the soft, sacred opening of awareness. A breathless inhale before the exhale of worlds. A quiet preparation for the first step of a dance that would echo through every galaxy, every atom, every living soul. And in that silence, the universe waited for the dancer to rise. Before the universe could take shape, before the stars could burn in the darkness or rivers could flow across the earth, the formless spirit that had stirred in the stillness had to become something more. Not merely energy, not just vibration, but consciousness with a will. A being who could dance the dance of existence itself. This being is known as Shiva, but to understand who Shiva is, we must go far beyond names, beyond images, beyond even thought. Shiva is one of the most ancient and complex figures in Hindu mythology. Not a god in the simple sense of a figure seated on a throne in the sky, but something deeper, something eternal. He is not just a creator, nor merely a destroyer. He is the still point and the storm, the breath and the silence after, He is the meditating sage who closes his eyes to the world, and the cosmic dancer who opens them to call the world into being. In Sanskrit, the name Shiva means the auspicious one, but this name only hints at his vast nature. To some, he appears terrifying or adorned with snakes, his body smeared in sacred ash, his eyes blazing with knowledge and power. But to others, he is the gentle lord of meditation, seated in stillness high atop Mount Kailash, lost in timeless inner peace. These contradictions are not errors or illusions. They are the essence of Shiva himself. He is both, always both. Unlike gods who dwell in luxury, surrounded by palaces and jewels, Shiva is often shown clothed in animal skins, living on the margins of society. He rejects the world even as he holds it within him. He dances in cremation grounds, places feared by many, where life and death meet without masks. He wears a crescent moon in his hair, a symbol of time and its cycles, and the river Ganga flows from his locks, purifying all things. His third eye in the centre of his forehead represents an awareness beyond duality, a vision that sees through illusion to the heart of truth. But Shiva is not alone. He is always accompanied by paradox. He is celibate, and yet deeply in love. He is wrathful, and yet endlessly compassionate. He sits still for eons, and then rises with the fury of 1,000 storms. To try and define him is like trying to catch the wind in your hands, or count the reflections on a rippling lake. He is beyond categories. He is the mystery of opposites becoming one. And yet, he is also deeply personal. Devotees speak of Shiva not as a distant god, but as a companion, a teacher, a presence that walks beside them in times of struggle. He is the one who destroys not to punish, but to clear the path for new growth. He is the God who does not demand perfection, but invites transformation. He is fierce, yes, but only because he sees the truth that lies beyond our attachments. In the ancient texts, Shiva is called Mahadeva, the great god, but even that title cannot contain him. He is part of the great trinity of Hinduism: Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer. Yet Shiva is not destruction in the modern sense. He does not destroy for the sake of chaos. He destroys what is no longer needed. He burns away the false self so that the true self might emerge. In this way, Shiva is both the end and the beginning. In yogic philosophy, Shiva represents the pure consciousness that lies beneath the surface of all experience. He is the eternal witness, the awareness that watches without judging, that waits without interfering. In deep meditation, when the mind becomes still and the boundaries of the self begin to dissolve, it is said that one comes close to Shiva, not as a figure, but as a state of being. And so, before the first world spun into motion, before even time knew how to count, Shiva was there, silent, watchful, vast, not sleeping, not waking, not speaking but listening, waiting for the right moment, for the rhythm to rise, for the dance to begin. And when that moment came, Shiva, who had been still for eternity, opened his eyes. And with that gaze, with that breath, with that first step, the universe began to move. In the beginning there was silence, deep, sacred, endless. Shiva sat still in meditation, unmoved by the passage of non-time, untouched by the dream of form. His eyes were closed, his breath barely a whisper in the womb of the cosmos. All possibilities swirled within him, yet none had been called forth. He was the eternal stillness, waiting for the precise moment when stillness would give way to movement. And then something shifted. Not in space, for space had not yet spread its fabric. Not in time, for time was still slumbering in the folds of Shiva's breath. But in essence, a pulse, subtle as the first ripple on a calm lake. A desire not born from need, but from fullness. The formless one wished to dance. From the depths of his being, Shiva raised the tiny drum in his hand, the Damaru. Its shape is hourglass-like, narrow at the middle, wider at the ends, a symbol of the fusion between two worlds, the spiritual and the physical, the unmanifest and the manifest. And then, with a flick of his wrist, he struck the drum. Ta-ta-ta-ta. The sound echoed into the void, not heard as a physical vibration, but felt as a truth. It was the first sound, not of thunder or explosion, but of rhythm. And from this rhythm time was born. The drumbeat was the heartbeat of the universe, the signal that sleep was over, that the eternal dreamer would now open his eyes. With each beat, energy spiraled outward, not in chaos, but in sacred geometry, in patterns that would later become galaxies and atoms, rivers and roots, thoughts and emotions. The beat was steady, steady like a lullaby to the unborn world. It was not harsh or loud, it was gentle, yet powerful beyond imagining. The sound of awakening. Shiva began to move, slowly at first, a tilt of the head, a sway of the arm. His body, long still, began to respond to the music he himself had summoned. And with each motion, something miraculous happened. Creation began to unfold. He raised one hand above him, calling down divine energy from the infinite. He swept another hand across the unseen air, spreading that energy through space. He lifted his leg, and the act of lifting became the separation of sky from earth. He stepped down, and the step became gravity, grounding, the law that would shape the cosmos. Every gesture was more than dance. It was command, it was prayer, it was law, but this was not a cold or mechanical creation. It was not the building of a machine. It was art, spontaneous and alive. Shiva danced not to assemble the world like a carpenter builds a table, but to give it soul, rhythm, beauty. The universe was not constructed, it was danced into existence. His hair, long and wild, spun through the empty space, weaving spirals that would later become the arms of galaxies. His feet struck the rhythm of existence itself. Birth, growth, decay, renewal. The ground beneath him, though no ground had been before, responded. It became the stage upon which all future life would act out its stories. The dust of stars gathered at his ankles. The breath of wind curled around his chest. Fire circled his arms. Water flowed from his hair. Earth formed beneath his feet. And still he danced, not for an audience, not for applause. He danced because dance was the purest expression of truth. In every twirl he was dissolving the past and calling forth the future. In every leap he transcended the limits of what had been and opened the door to what could be. He became Nataraja, the lord of the dance, the creator, the preserver, the destroyer, all in one graceful, terrible, beautiful motion. His eyes opened, and with their gaze the stars were born. His smile cracked the sky into light and shadow. His breath became the wind that would one day rustle through trees and stir the oceans. He flung his arms outward, and time began to stretch, unfold, accelerate. Ages began. Histories waited to be written. Souls prepared to be born. And yet, through it all, Shiva remained in the centre, perfectly still in his motion. His dance was a paradox, dynamic stillness, chaotic order, passionate detachment. He was within the dance, and beyond it. He was the rhythm, the dancer, the stage, and the witness. This was not a single moment, but an eternal one. The kind of moment that contains all other moments within it. It did not happen long ago. It is happening now. Every second of existence is part of that sacred dance. Every heartbeat echoes the drum. Every inhale and exhale is a footstep in Shiva's cosmic choreography. And so, from silence came sound, from stillness came motion, from the unknowable came the known, and from the dance of one divine being the entire universe was born, spinning, shimmering, alive. As the dance of Shiva gained momentum, the universe, still young, still fragile, began to shape itself around his movements. But it was not merely the god's graceful gestures that summoned existence. It was the space around him, the glowing boundary that surrounded his form, that made this moment eternal. a great luminous circle began to rise, gently at first, like the halo of a dawn yet to break, and soon it blazed like fire. This was no ordinary fire. It was not flame as we know it, not heat that burns or consumes. It was divine light, alive with meaning. A ring of fire, ever circling, ever moving, containing within it all the cycles of creation, destruction, and rebirth. This sacred circle is called the Prabhamandala, and it is the cosmic frame within which Shiva performs his dance as Nataraja, the lord of the dance. The circle does not imprison him. It is born from him. It pulses with his rhythm, expands with his breath, contracts with his steps. It is the cycle of time, the wheel of existence, the sacred orbit that binds all living things. The flames that form the ring flicker and twist, each one a symbol of transformation. They burn not to punish, but to purify. Within this fire, everything false, stagnant, or dead is burned away, leaving behind only essence, only truth. The circle represents the eternal dance of the cosmos. No beginning, no end. Everything flows in a loop, spiraling forward and inward at the same time. Birth leads to death, death leads to rebirth, and in between lies change, constant, unrelenting, divine. And there, at the centre of this flaming circle, stands Shiva. His body is fluid, his limbs stretched in a posture both powerful and serene. His face is calm, not angry, not wild, but composed, filled with an otherworldly stillness. For though he moves, his inner being is motionless. Though the world dances around him in storms of fire and fate, he remains the eye of the cyclone, the still point in a turning universe. In one hand he holds the drum, Damaru, still pulsing with the rhythm that gave birth to time. It speaks of creation, of emergence, of life unfolding in endless variation. In another hand he holds fire, Agni, not the same fire that surrounds him, but a focused flame, the power of destruction. This fire is not cruel, it is cleansing. It clears away the illusions, the attachments, the fears that bind souls to ignorance. It burns the mask so that the face beneath may be seen. One of his hands is raised in a gesture of blessing, the Abhaya Mudra. Do not fear. It is a gift to all who witness his dance. Though the fire may roar, though the world may fall and rise again, there is nothing to fear. For this dance is not chaos. It is divine order, disguised as movement. His raised palm says, "You're safe even here, especially here." Another hand points downward, toward his raised foot, a gesture that holds deep meaning. That foot, lifted with elegance and purpose, is salvation. It offers release from the endless cycle of birth and death, the exit from the wheel of suffering. It is not just a foot, it is a promise, a path. Beneath his other foot lies a dwarf-like figure, small and struggling. This is Apasmara, the demon of ignorance, of forgetfulness, of spiritual blindness. Shiva does not crush him with hatred. He does not destroy him in wrath. Instead, he gently subdues him, keeping him beneath his foot, a reminder that awareness must triumph over darkness, that wisdom must keep ignorance in check, not through violence, but through grace. The circle of fire continues to burn around all this. It is not separate from the dance, it is an extension of it. The flames flicker with the stories of all that will be, worlds that will rise and fall, creatures that will be born, stars that will explode, and minds that will awaken. It is the fire of cosmic memory, the forge in which destiny is shaped. And yet through all of this, Shiva remains beyond. He is within the circle, yet untouched by it. He is the dancer and the flame, the rhythm and the silence. The dance continues, and the universe spirals outward. Each atom, each breath, each thought tracing its pattern, from the movements of this one divine being. To look upon Shiva dancing within the circle of fire is to glimpse the sacred mechanics of the universe. It is to see not just how life began, but how it continues, how every ending is a beginning, how every loss clears the way for something new. It is to understand that creation is not a one-time event. It is happening now, in this moment, in every flicker of awareness, in every step of the dance. And so the flames keep spinning. The circle keeps burning. And at the centre of it all, the Lord of the dance moves with timeless grace, shaping reality with every gesture, reminding us, whether we are gods, humans, or stars, that we are all part of the fire, all part of the rhythm, all part of the eternal dance. The rhythm of creation had begun. The universe, once a silent dream resting within the mind of the divine, now stirred and pulsed with energy. At the heart of this awakening was not a command, not a machine, not a decree, but a beat. A steady, sacred beat that echoed from the small hourglass-shaped drum in Shiva's hand, the Damaru. The sound was simple, yet infinite. Not harsh or jarring, but resonant, like the pulse of a sleeping child's heart or the first breath of a newborn star. Each tap of the drum shaped reality, ta-ta-ta-ta, a cosmic language spoken not with words, but with rhythm. This was not a performance, it was Genesis. With the first vibration, time was born. Before that beat, time did not exist. There was no yesterday, no tomorrow, no change. Everything simply was, perfect, motionless, unknowable. But now, with each pulse of the Damaru, something new entered the cosmic field, sequence, one moment following another, flow, change, movement. From that moment on, nothing would remain the same. The illusion of stillness was broken, and time began to unwind its endless scroll. Shiva's drumbeat did not merely measure time, it created it. Each beat was a seed planted into the soil of the void. From each seed grew an era, an age, an unfolding of cause and effect. Civilizations would rise and fall in its echoes. Suns would flare and die in rhythm with it. The heartbeat of the universe had been set, and everything that would ever live would dance to its tempo. In Hindu philosophy, time is not a straight line. It is not a one-way road with a start and an end. Instead, time is cyclical. It loops, it breathes, it dies, and is reborn. The Damaru expresses this perfectly. One side of the drum represents creation, the expanding of time, the birth of form, the flowering of the cosmos. The other side represents dissolution, the contraction of time, the return of all form into the formless. And in the centre, where the two halves meet, lies the now, the eternal moment, always balanced between becoming and unbecoming. The sound of the drum also holds within it the syllables of language itself. In sacred traditions, it is said that Shiva's drum gave birth to the Sanskrit alphabet. The primal sounds, a, ka, the, na, and so on, emerge from his rhythm, forming the roots of all mantras, all poems, all scriptures. Just as the drum created time, it also gave voice to truth. Every sacred text, every chant, every whispered prayer traces its lineage back to this moment, to the beat that made sound sacred. But the drumbeat is not just for gods or sages. It is heard, though often forgotten, in every living being. The beating of our hearts, the rhythm of our breath, the cycles of our sleep, the rise and fall of emotions, all are echoes of that ancient sound. Even the smallest cell dances to time's rhythm. Every tree grows in response to a rhythm of light and shadow, of seasons and winds. Every bird sings in tune with dawn. Every ocean tide, every moon phase, every aging wrinkle on a human face, all of them follow the beat of Shiva's drum. The Damaru also symbolizes the paradox of existence, the union of opposites. Its hourglass shape reflects the joining of the finite and infinite, the visible and invisible, sound and silence. The drum must be empty to resonate. It must have space within it to produce the sacred pulse. This is a quiet truth. It is not the striking of the drum alone that creates the sound, but the emptiness inside. Just as the universe itself needed a womb of silence to give birth to creation, the drum speaks only because it holds nothing within. And yet, though the drumbeat began long ago, it has never truly stopped. It continues even now. Every instant you're alive is a beat. Every breath you take is part of the rhythm. Every ending you face is part of a larger pattern. The universe does not move randomly, it moves musically. When Shiva dances, he does not keep time to the drum keeps time to him. His movement is both cause and effect. He is not bound by time, he is the master of it. And yet, through his compassion, he enters the flow, allowing beings like us, bound by flesh and memory, to find meaning within the pulse. In temples where Shiva is worshipped, the image of Nataraja, the lord of the dance, is often placed at the heart of the sanctum, and in his hand always is the drum. It is not a weapon, it is not a tool of control, it is a gift. It reminds the devotee that no matter how chaotic life may seem, there is rhythm beneath it. There is order within disorder. There is music playing even when we cannot hear it. And so the drumbeat goes on, through joy and sorrow, through birth and death, through the great cycles of stars and the small beats of a human heart. It is the whisper of eternity speaking softly through time. And if you close your eyes, just for a moment, and listen not with your ears but with your soul, you may still hear it. Ta-ta-ta-ta. The same rhythm that once set the cosmos spinning. The same beat that makes life sacred. In the luminous circle of fire, as Shiva danced with grace and power, something astonishing unfolded, a truth that would challenge everything we think we know about destruction. For in most human minds, destruction is feared. It is seen as an end, a breaking, a loss. We cry when things are destroyed. We grieve when they fall apart. We resist decay, fight against endings, and cling to what we've known. But in the dance of Shiva, destruction is not a punishment. It is a sacred necessity, a divine act, a step in the rhythm of the cosmos. With one hand, Shiva holds the drum, the Damaru, the source of creation, of sound, of becoming. With the other, he holds fire, the fire that consumes, the fire that ends. This is Agni, the divine flame, not wild and chaotic, but intentional, precise. It is the fire that clears, the fire that transforms. When Shiva lifts this flame, he is not lashing out in anger. He is signalling that the time has come for change, for release, for renewal. Look closely at the universe and you will see this truth repeated everywhere. A tree sheds its leaves not to die, but to make way for new growth. A forest burns, and from its ashes a new ecosystem arises. The sun itself will one day explode, but from its remnants, other stars and planets may be born. In this universe, nothing is static. Nothing is forever in the form it takes. Shiva's fire does not destroy life. It destroys the illusion that anything can remain untouched by time. This is why Shiva is called the Destroyer, but not with hatred or violence. He is not the destroyer of being, but of illusion. He burns away false attachments. He dismantles the ego that thinks it can live forever. He brings down structures that have grown rigid and lifeless. His dance ends eras not because he is cruel, but because everything must make way for the next breath of creation. Without Shiva's destruction, there would be no space for renewal, no possibility of rebirth. In the human world, we often face moments that feel like the end. A relationship dissolves, a career crumbles, a loved one dies, our plans fall apart. In those moments we are brought low, as if Shiva stepped into our lives and struck the ground with his fiery foot. We weep, we question. We wonder why the dance must include such sorrow. But if we could step back, just far enough to see the pattern, we would begin to understand. Just as the old skin must be shed for the snake to grow, just as the cocoon must break for the butterfly to emerge, so too must the parts of our lives that no longer serve us be allowed to die. The destruction is painful, yes, but it is sacred. It is not meant to punish. It is meant to free. Shiva's fire consumes karma. It burns the webs of attachment that bind the soul to endless cycles of suffering. It reveals the truth hidden beneath the masks we wear. His destruction is a medicine for the soul, bitter at first, but ultimately healing. Those who walk the path of wisdom know, when Shiva comes with fire, something false is about to fall away, and something true is about to be revealed. This fire is also internal. It is the flame of spiritual transformation, the burning of ignorance, the unraveling of the small self. Yogis speak of an inner fire, tapas, which, when cultivated through discipline, meditation, and surrender, purifies the mind and prepares it for liberation. This is the fire of Shiva, the fire that doesn't burn the body, but the ego, the fire that clears the inner landscape so the divine can enter. In his dance, Shiva steps with force, crushing ignorance beneath his foot, yet his expression remains serene. There is no violence in his eyes, no rage in his limbs, only presence, clarity, compassion. He destroys, yes, but not because he hates. He destroys because he sees what we cannot. The endings are beginnings in disguise. Even modern science echoes Shiva's wisdom. Galaxies collide, stars collapse, particles decay. Everything we know, our bodies, our memories, our civilizations, is built on cycles of destruction and creation. Without death, there can be no evolution. Without breaking, no building. Without decay, no growth. What Shiva dances, nature mirrors. And so, when the flame in his hand flickers and burns, we are not to fear it. We are to bow to it. For this fire is the gatekeeper of rebirth. It is the purifier of the soul. It is the final breath before the first cry of new life. In the dance of Nataraja, destruction is not the end of the story. It is the sacred pause, the silent breath before the next beat of the drum. It is the necessary darkness before the dawn, the collapse before the rise, the falling leaf before the blossom. And in this realization we are given peace. We no longer need to fear what is passing away. We no longer need to cling to what must end. For if Shiva is dancing and the fire is burning, then transformation is near. Something new is coming, and we too are part of the rhythm. As Shiva dances within the sacred circle of fire, embodying the vast forces of creation and destruction, there is a single striking gesture that seems to pause time itself, a hand raised, palm open, fingers gently extended toward the observer. This is not a gesture of power or control. It is not a command. It is a gift. This is the Abhaya Mudra, the gesture of fearlessness. It is one of the most compassionate symbols in all of Hindu iconography. And it speaks without words. Do not be afraid, you are safe in this dance. In the chaos of the universe, the rising flames, the collapsing worlds, the endless turning of time, this small gesture shines like a lighthouse in a storm. Shiva, the Lord of Destruction, does not dance to inspire fear. He dances to free us from it. And with his open palm he reminds us that beyond the illusion of turmoil there is a deeper peace, a sanctuary we carry within us at all times. To understand the true depth of this gesture, we must place ourselves within the mythic scene. Imagine the fire encircling Shiva, the pulsing of the drum creating time, the steady motion of limbs dissolving the old and calling forth the new. It would be overwhelming, blinding. For most beings, human or divine, this vision would be too much. To witness the birth and death of worlds in a single moment would stir the deepest terror. We are not accustomed to seeing the great cycles all at once. We are used to the illusion of control, the comfort of continuity. And yet Shiva lifts his hand. He does not stop the dance because the dance must go on. But he tells us, you can survive this. You can trust this. You are part of this. The open palm is both a blessing and a message. It is as if the universe itself is speaking gently, saying, though everything around you may be shifting, though you may feel like you are losing all that you know, you are not alone. There is nothing to fear. The rhythm has not abandoned you. This is not an easy lesson. We live in a world where fear is everywhere. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of death, fear of meaninglessness. From the moment we are born, we are taught to cling to people, to plans, to possessions. And when these things slip from our grasp, as they always must, fear rises like smoke. It clouds our vision. It hardens our hearts. But Shiva's raised hand cuts through that smoke. It tells us, you do not need to hold so tightly. What is real will not be taken from you. What is eternal cannot be burned. There is an old truth buried in this gesture, one that sages have whispered for millennia. The root of fear is the belief that we are separate from others, separate from life, separate from the divine. But Shiva's dance, and especially his open hand, reminds us that this separation is an illusion. We are not standing outside the fire. We are made of it. We are not watching the dance. We are part of it. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is a step in the cosmic rhythm. The more we remember this, the less fear can grip us. The Abhaya Mudra also has a historical and spiritual legacy far beyond Shiva. It appears in countless depictions of the Buddha, in Jain images of enlightened beings, in statues and paintings across cultures and continents. Always, it means the same thing. You are protected, not from difficulty, but from despair. Not from change, but from meaninglessness. The divine does not promise to stop the waves, but to teach us how to float. Shiva does not freeze time, but he shows us how to find stillness within it. There is also a hidden layer to this gesture. The hand, when raised in this way, is also saying, let go. Let go of fear, yes, but also let go of resistance. Let go of the need to control every outcome. Let go of the belief that you must understand everything in order to be safe. There is a sacred trust being offered. To dance with the universe, we must have the courage to be moved. When Shiva raises his hand, he is not separating himself from us. He is inviting us into the fire, into the rhythm, into the mystery. And he is saying, you will not be harmed. You will be transformed. In everyday life, this gesture can become a meditation. When you are overwhelmed, when fear creeps into your chest, when the future feels uncertain and the past feels heavy, close your eyes and imagine that hand, open, gentle, eternal. It is not commanding you to be fearless, it is reminding you that fear does not define you. Beneath it lies something greater: presence, awareness, divine intelligence. The more you remember that hand, the more you begin to see it everywhere. In the kindness of strangers, in the stillness of morning, in the way a tree sways calmly in a storm, in the feeling you get when you let go of something and realize the world did not collapse. Shiva's blessing is not a moment frozen in a myth. It is living, breathing, dancing in every corner of existence. And so, amid the sacred fire, as stars are born and time is measured in steps, Shiva continues to dance. His feet strike the ground with the force of ages. His hair flies like cosmic wind. And yet his face is calm. His heart is open, and his hand remains lifted. Do not fear, it says. Even here, even now, you are held in the rhythm of something greater. You are part of the dance. At the very base of the divine dance, beneath the swirl of flames, the pulsing drum, and the hand raised in blessing, lies a small, hunched figure. He is easy to overlook at first, overshadowed by the cosmic grandeur above him. But he is there, crushed beneath the foot of Shiva, a dwarf, twisted and struggling, pressed down but not entirely destroyed. His name is Apasmara, and he represents one of the most dangerous forces in existence: ignorance. Unlike demons that roar with violence or gods that shine with brilliance, Apasmara is subtle. His power is not in his strength, but in his ability to cloud perception. He makes the soul forget who it is. He dims the light of wisdom and wraps the mind in delusion. He whispers half-truths into the ears of mortals and immortals alike. You are separate. You're weak. You're alone. There is nothing more than what you can see. These are his mantras, not shouted but suggested. And when they take root, they grow like weeds, choking the garden of awareness. In many ways, Apasmara is the most human of all the symbols in the dance. He's the part of us that clings to falsehood because it is familiar, that resists change because it is frightening. He's the inner voice that says, "You're not ready. You're not worthy. Don't go deeper." He's not evil in the traditional sense. He's simply mistaken, stubborn, asleep, and yet, left unchecked, he can rule over the mind like a tyrant. This is why Shiva does not destroy him outright. The Lord of the Dance could have crushed him with a single stomp, he could have burned him to ash with his fire, but instead Shiva chooses a different path. He pins Apasmara beneath his foot, holding him in place with just enough pressure to keep him still, but not enough to erase him. The message is profound. Ignorance must be subdued, not annihilated. It must be acknowledged, recognized, kept in check, but not hated. In this moment, Shiva teaches one of the most compassionate truths of spiritual life, that ignorance is part of the human journey. We all carry an Apasmara within us. We are all born into forgetting. We all stumble through darkness before we seek the light. And so, rather than declaring war on this inner dwarf, Shiva invites us to dance with him, to rise above our ignorance without denying it. His foot reminds us, stay humble, stay aware. Keep ignorance beneath you, but never pretend it was never there. There's something deeply grounding about Apasmara's presence in this cosmic scene. He brings the infinite back to the intimate. While stars are spinning and galaxies are forming around Shiva, at his feet lies a struggle that every human being can recognize. No matter how high one reaches in meditation or devotion, the battle with ignorance remains. And that's not failure, it's the work. Enlightenment is not the absence of ignorance, but the ability to recognize it, to step on it gently, and to keep dancing anyway. In Hindu symbolism, Apasmara is also associated with forgetfulness, not just the forgetting of names or facts, but the deeper, spiritual forgetting of who we are. When he rises in our minds, we forget our divine origin. We forget that we are not just bodies or thoughts or memories, but awareness itself. We forget the dance, and when we forget the dance, we become fearful, greedy, anxious, and isolated. We lose the rhythm, we lose the music. But Shiva's dance is a reminder. It tells us that even when ignorance rises, it can be met with grace. The divine does not need to rage against our shortcomings. It need only step forward with awareness. Shiva's foot does not tremble. It does not waver. It rests calmly, firmly upon Apasmara's back. And in that act, the world is kept in balance. This image has been carved into temple walls and cast into bronze statues for centuries. In the great Chola bronzes of South India, Nataraja is always shown with Apasmara beneath his foot. Devotees gaze upon this scene not with fear, but with recognition. They know that Apasmara lives within their own hearts. They know that the foot of Shiva represents their own discipline, their own courage, their own willingness to face what is untrue within themselves. Every time they pray, every time they meditate, every time they choose honesty over delusion, they too are placing the foot upon the dwarf. And yet even Apasmara has a role. Without ignorance, there would be nothing to awaken from. Without forgetfulness, remembrance would have no meaning. In this way, even the demon beneath Shiva's foot is part of the dance. He is not excluded from the circle of fire. He is at its very centre. This is the paradox, that the most profound divine acts do not always involve banishment or destruction. Sometimes the highest wisdom is simply restraint. Shiva teaches us that control over the ego, over delusion, over fear, does not come from violence. It comes from presence, from standing firmly in truth, from never letting the dwarf rise unchecked, but also never pretending that he's not there. In the end, Apasmara remains. He's not destroyed. He is part of the stage, part of the story, and so are we. Each time we lose ourselves in fear or pride, he stirs beneath our feet. And each time we return to awareness, return to breath, return to the stillness behind all things, we feel the pressure of Shiva's foot, gently, firmly, reminding us that ignorance may whisper, but it does not have to rule. It's only one note in the dance. And the dance goes on, and as the cosmic dance of Shiva unfolds within the blazing circle of fire, it becomes easy to focus only on him, the serene face, the swirling locks, the outstretched limbs that seem to command the very forces of creation and destruction. But to truly understand the mystery and depth of this dance, one must look beyond the surface, beyond even the figure of Shiva himself. For Shiva, though powerful, though infinite in his awareness, is not dancing alone. There is a presence within him and around him, subtle but essential, a divine energy that animates his movements, gives breath to his stillness, and form to his formlessness. That presence is Shakti. Shakti is not simply a companion or consort. She is not beside Shiva, she is within him, as he is within her. Shakti is the cosmic feminine, the sacred force of dynamic power, the creative pulse of the universe. If Shiva represents consciousness, pure, still, unchanging, then Shakti is that which causes consciousness to express itself, to move, to create. Without her, Shiva would remain silent and motionless. Without him, she would remain unshaped, directionless. Together they form the totality of reality, Purusha and Prakriti, the observer and the observed, the inner awareness and the outer manifestation. In the symbolism of the dance, Shiva is the dancer, yes, but the energy that fuels each motion, the vibration that animates each gesture, is Shakti. She is not apart from him, but flows through him. She is the fire encircling his form, the rhythm of the drumbeat, the surge of transformation within every step. Her presence is invisible to the eye, but unmistakable to the soul. She is the current that turns potential into actuality. The ancient sages taught that nothing in the universe moves without Shakti. She is the life force behind every action. Whether it's the blooming of a flower, the motion of the planets, or the flicker of a thought in the mind, every act of creation, every moment of destruction, every cycle of rebirth, these are not the results of brute power, but of Shakti's intelligent living energy. She is not mechanical, she is conscious, aware, dancing not beside Shiva but as Shiva. In the sacred texts, Shakti appears in many forms: Durga, the warrior goddess, Parvati, the gentle consort, Kali, the fierce destroyer, Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, and many more. These are not separate beings, but different aspects of the one great force. Just as the moon can be full or crescent, yet always remains the same moon, so too does Shakti shift her form while remaining eternal. And in her dance with Shiva, she is both the fire that fuels him and the ground upon which he dances. Their relationship is not hierarchical. It is not that Shiva is the master and Shakti the servant, nor is it the other way around. It is a relationship of absolute equality, of sacred balance. When Shiva opens his third eye to perceive, it is Shakti that gives shape to what he sees. When he steps forward to destroy illusion, it is her energy that clears the path. And when he raises his hand in blessing, it is her compassion that flows through it. They are inseparable. One is the form, the other is the force. In yogic philosophy, this balance is reflected in the human being. Shiva resides in the crown of the head, pure awareness, detached and watching. Shakti resides at the base of the spine, coiled like a sleeping serpent, filled with latent energy. When awakened through spiritual practice, this energy, known as Kundalini Shakti, rises upward, moving through the chakras, purifying the body and mind, until it reunites with Shiva at the top. This is the union of the divine masculine and feminine within the self. It is the inner version of the cosmic dance. In this way, the dance of Nataraja is not only a story about the beginning of the universe, it is also a map of inner awakening. Shiva and Shakti do not just exist in the heavens, they exist within you. Within every being, every atom, every breath, this dance continues. The stillness of consciousness and the movement of energy are never apart. When you feel inspiration, when you act from truth, when you create something beautiful or destroy something false, you are participating in the same dance. Even in relationships between people, the wisdom of Shiva and Shakti holds meaning. Where there is balance between presence and flow, between awareness and emotion, between silence and expression, there is harmony. But when that balance is lost, when one tries to dominate the other, the dance falters, the flames become chaotic, the rhythm breaks. To live wisely is to honour both stillness and motion, clarity and feeling, thought and action. This is why the image of Nataraja is so powerful. It is not only a depiction of divinity, it is a symbol of harmony, of the marriage between the unchanging and the changing, between what is and what moves, between Shiva, who is the space, and Shakti, who is the storm. Without Shakti, Shiva's dance would be lifeless. Without Shiva, Shakti's energy would be directionless. Together, they are the very breath of the cosmos. And so as the flames rise and the foot falls and the drumbeat continues to echo through the silence, remember, Shiva may dance, but it is Shakti who moves him. The beauty, the terror, the grace, the wildness of it all, they are hers. And they are his. One force, two faces, one truth, two expressions, the divine dancing within itself. And through their unity, the universe is born again and again. As the dance of Shiva reaches its climax, the universe quivers in rhythm. Galaxies spin with ecstatic momentum, atoms hum in harmony, and the boundaries between creation and destruction blur into something timeless. The great ring of fire pulses with divine intelligence, every flame alive with purpose. Shiva's limbs move with both fury and grace, his foot holding ignorance in place, his hands blessing, commanding, dissolving. Time stretches thin, as if the dance might go on forever. But even this cosmic rhythm must come to rest. The Tandava, the sacred dance, is not eternal in its motion. It is eternal in its cycle. And so the time arrives for Shiva to return to stillness, not because the dance has failed, but because it has fulfilled its purpose. The beat slows, the fire softens, the vibrant, blazing wheel of transformation begins to dim like the last embers of a holy fire. Not extinguished, just waiting. As the final steps echo across existence, the universe sighs. The stars themselves seem to lean in, pausing in their paths. The planets still spin, the winds still blow. But everything grows quieter, more inward, as if the cosmos itself is preparing for meditation. Shiva's eyes, which had opened wide in ecstatic fury and transcendent awareness, begin to close again. Slowly, gently, like the sun setting after a long, bright day. What remains is not silence, but something deeper. Stillness. A sacred quiet, not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. The kind of peace that contains everything, movement, change, memory, and rests within it, like the ocean beneath the waves. Shiva returns to his meditative state, seated in the lotus posture, his breath now even, his form unmoving, his consciousness vast and empty and full all at once. And in that stillness, the universe dissolves. Not in terror, not in collapse, but in return. Just as a wave returns to the sea, just as a breath exhales back into the wind, all things come home. Stars fold inwards, galaxies contract into points of light, matter becomes vibration, vibration becomes silence. All the names and forms, the dance of multiplicity, gods and mortals, trees and temples, mountains and memories, they all flow back into the formless. Shiva does not grieve this, he does not cling. In his eyes, all things are part of the eternal rhythm. What is born must pass. What is created must be uncreated. The universe is not ending, it is resting. It is folding itself into potential, preparing to dream again. This is the great wisdom of Hindu cosmology. The world is not a single creation story, but a recurring cycle. Creation, srishti, preservation, sthiti, dissolution, samhara, veiling, tirabhava, and grace, anugraha. These 5 acts repeat endlessly. Shiva performs them not once, but again and again in infinite time and infinite space. There is no final apocalypse, no terminal collapse, only breathing in and breathing out. Cosmic inhalation, cosmic exhalation. The end of the dance is therefore not an end, but a return. Shiva rests in his own awareness, in the infinite void called Mahashunya, the great emptiness. But even in this void something stirs, a memory of rhythm, a longing for movement, a desire to know, to shape, to express. Within the silence, the seed of the next creation is already present. This moment of stillness is where the soul is invited to meet Shiva most intimately. In the silence after the storm, in the pause between thoughts, in the breath that lingers between inhale and exhale. The dance is dramatic, awe-inspiring, but the stillness, it is home, it is the return to the self, and in meditation in solitude, in the quiet awareness of the present moment, the seeker may feel this stillness, not as something empty, but as something sacred. In the grand sculpture of Nataraja, the image frozen in bronze, Shiva's dance is captured at its peak, but his expression is calm. It reminds us that within every whirlwind there is a centre. Within every act of transformation there is presence, and after every cycle there is rest. Just as we sleep after a day, just as the earth turns from light to night, so too does the divine rest after the dance. Yet this rest is not forgetfulness, it is preparation. The next dance is always waiting, timeless, ageless, waiting to unfold, and when it does, the drum will sound again, the flames will rise, the hands will move, and the rhythm will awaken the cosmos anew. But for now, in this final chapter of the dance, let us be still. Let us honour the end of the cycle. Let us remember that endings are sacred. Let us breathe and know that everything which has passed has returned to the heart of the One. And let us wait in quiet reverence for the next beat to begin.